identify the problem and try to devise a solution to suit that problem. We all know what the problem is. It's basically this idea of co-locating the security detail of the president and the vice president in one area or in close proximity to one another. And therefore, we believe that there are ways in which this problem can be addressed without the need to resort into such a drastic action.
The government has donated 1 million South Sudanese pounds and 15 bulls to the wounded soldiers currently under treatment at the military hospital in Juba on Wednesday. The Minister of Defense, Kwal Manyang-Juk, handed the donation to the administration of the hospital and thanked the Red Cross for supporting the hospital. The Director of Military Hospital, Brigadier Kwal Deng, commended the moral and material assistance by the government. Minister Kwal was accompanied by the Ministers of Finance, David Denga Thorbey, and of Information, Communication Technology and Postal Service, Michael Makwelweth, as well as by the Chief of General Staff, General Paul Malong Awan.
The work of our doctors, they did marvelous work for which we are proud. We are proud of our doctors. They are able to do the work that the cases that used to be referred, we send outside for management. We have come with a token from the government, from the Ministry of Finance. They have contributed 1 million South Sudanese pounds so that the doctors can be able to buy the medicines or anything they want to buy, some which are not available here. And the Minister of Defense also contributed a step of goodwill to give them the support and to raise their morale. They have brought with them about 15 bulls. We have also a token medicines from our Minister of Finance, Honorable Denga Thorbey, which we have heard from our Minister of Defense that this amount to 1 million SSB. This will help the Director of the hospital to be able to purchase the needed medicines for operations and for blood bank and for all those things. Our cars are broken down. So the first thing is for them to be repaired so that they are in good condition. And after that, we will see what else we can be asking. We are really very thankful for that. The Directorate for Operation and for Administration, Deputy Chief of Staff for Administration, has been supporting us all along. And in fact, we didn't witness any shortage of food, because whenever we ask something for food items, we receive it always.
Thousands took to the streets of Juba against UN proposal to impose sanctions and deploy more foreign troops in South Sudan. The demonstrators rejected the UN intervention, saying it will encroach on the sovereignty of South Sudan. The demonstrators met with the UNMISS, IGAD and U.S. Embassy officials in South Sudan. James Sarusi has more.
In the streets to Juba Airport at Holt, thousands expressed their dismay over UN and African Union resolutions over South Sudan conflict. The 5 days of fighting that again erupted earlier this month in Juba sparked attention from the United Nations and African Union, suggesting deployment of additional foreign troops to South Sudan. But for the citizens, the move is inappropriate.
Because of that thing they are planning, it is not favoring at all we Southern Sudanese people. We are not under the government of America. We are for our own things.
لأنه دايرين يجيبوا جيش أمريكا في بلدنا وما دايرين ما في أسرة بيسلموه بدون شدة ما نحن قاعدين بلدنا واحد وشعبنا واحد وما دايرين بينك منشان يجيب حالهم بجاي.
And today we have come out to say clearly to the whole world that we reject the intervention of UN forces and we reject the revisiting of the UN to be a military intervention. And we reject IGAD intervention. This will be considered as invasion of a sovereign country.
Chanting slogans against US and UN for the members of parliament, such hashtag was not appropriate, but going against the citizens means no vote.
Down, down, USA! Down, down, USA! I will not agree with you. Down, down, USA! cannot down, and when you are a member, you cannot down the IGAD or down AU. We are part and parcel of IGAD. We are part and parcel of UN. We are part and parcel of the AU. This is the message. I have received you enough. Thank you very much. I have received your petition. Bye-bye.
Fi Junuba Sudan, and that is to create buffer zone. Buffer zone, are we in war with Uganda? Are we in war with Ethiopia? Or with Kenya? Or with Sudan? No. Because of that, Fimana was Alitala Kalian Shianga Mashemish.
To the UNIMIS compound, an African Union and the U.S. Embassy, one voice was no to foreign troops, despite the international view on bringing peace to South Sudan.
This is a protestation against the UN sanctions and the idea of bringing more troops into South Sudan.
The intervention of foreign troops in South Sudan, we don't want that. We are a sovereign state. We can solve our own issues alone. We don't want intervention. What we need from AU, IGAD, and UN is only to support the Tigono government. We don't need intervention. That will worsen the situation in the country. Right now, there's no more war. We have managed to control our issues alone. No more fighting. So, question of intervention is what we don't want.
We are here because we don't want UNIMIS any longer. They are disturbing us in this one. It is a small problem. We have to our problem. No, let them go. Let them leave. These citizens are engaged in a peaceful demonstration to see that peace is brought not in a military way, but a more peaceful manner of negotiation. James Arusi, SSC in Juba.
People took to the streets of the major towns of South Sudan to reject a plan to deploy more foreign troops in the country. Choldwang reports.
ضبطناهم في كذا محلات في رمبيك أسلحة كانوا داخل commodities ومواد بتاع بناء building materials قبضناهم في السنة اللي فاتت. تاني الجمال في هسه بيقولوا من ما نازين دي أساكر because problem بيعملوا مشاكل وبيجي داخلين جوا بيمرقوا برا. ده واحد. اثنين كده دولة أفريقية هي المشكلة بتاعهم. يعني اثيوبيا عنده مشكلة مع رومو مع اوغادين مع كام مرة هناك. عندنا في سنترال افريكا السنة اللي فاتت هم عملوا شنو؟ هم عملوا حاجات ما كويس. عندنا في صوماليا هسه الآن لسه في العراق سوريا ما أنا هسه في سلام بين الحكومة والأخواننا اللي كان في خلاف بيصير ويتعالج.
The proposed foreign intervention has come under fierce opposition as citizens took to the streets across major towns like Juba and Bor, denouncing the regional plan to deploy more foreign troops in the country. On Wednesday, the residents of Juba came out to express solidarity with their government and reject the UN plan to increase the number of foreign troops inside South Sudan.
لانه يو ان ده يا لقبت بلده لقبت واخواني شاكلوا كده وكده يو ان يا لقبت بلده ما نرضى بيو ان ثالث على سبيل المثال في سوريا يو ان عمل شنو يا داك سوريا كرب على سبيل المثال في العراق يو ان عمل شنو ما عمل اي حاجه مشاكل دارفور عمل شنو ما عمل اي حاجه
ما ندفك في الجنوب ده يا بداية براك اوباما اقسم بالدين يا براك اوباما كان جبت جندي واحد انا برجع وليك شفته في الشنطه يا براك اوباما برجع وليك في الشنطه.
Currently, more than 12,000 foreign troops serving under the UN mandate have been in South Sudan before independence. Citizens have rallied against the way the international community is handling political turmoil since the outbreak of the conflict in 2013.
Generation of South Sudanese, we are the future of South Sudan. So we need to stand for our rights. We need freedom. We need to be free from United Nations or UN, anybody in foreign countries.
it is UNMISS and others, foreign force who are just creating chaos in our country. And I can say that there are a lot of people, the thousands of people in South Sudan who have been just losing their lives because of UNMISS. UNMISS has did a lot of things in South Sudan, and we are now demanding to let UNMISS leave our country, not to bring other people in South Sudan.
They say the available UN forces have not managed to avert violence inside the camps for the displaced persons. For SSBC News, Choldwang.
Moving on to Junglei State, where thousands also turned up in the streets of Bor to condemn the UN plan to deploy more foreign troops in the country. Addressing the rally, the governor of Junglei State, Philip Aguer-Panyang, appealed to the UN and eager to refrain from sending the troops. More in the following report.
The people of Junglei State organized a peaceful demonstration in collaboration with civil societies condemning UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon's suggestion to send more foreign troops to South Sudan. They say deploying more troops to South Sudan would fuel war at the time when the country is yearning for peace. They call on the international community to try another suggestion of solving South Sudan conflict amicably but not by increasing troops. Addressing the rally, the governor of Junglei State, Philip Aguer-Panyang, condemned the recent violence in Juba and appealed to UN and IGAD not to send more troops to South Sudan, saying all the parties are committed to restore peace in the country.
About the international intervention, did UNMISS, with the huge force, resolve the conflict in Darfur? Did you evaluate the 12,000 men and women mission in South Sudan? Did they need more troops and most modern military plane to accomplish their mission in South Sudan? Is that a result of evaluation? No foreign troops! No foreign troops! No foreign troops! No foreign troops!
Meanwhile, representatives of the civil societies in Junglei State, Mine Samuel Peter, said the people of Junglei State and South Sudan as a whole condemn the deployment of more troops to South Sudan, saying only dialogues can bring peace to South Sudan.
This again is the humiliation of the legitimate government of South Sudan and her people. Mr. Secretary General, when the United Nations was established 71 years ago, after the Second World War in 1945, the formation was meant to aim at improving the economic and social conditions of its member states and to solve political problems in the world in a peaceful and harmonious way. Unfortunately, those noble objectives and dreams which President Franklin Roosevelt prophesied for the well-being of humanity are being turned by others into despotic and lethal weapons of oppressions and suppression of the weak and the vulnerable.
Meanwhile, the representative of the South Sudan National Congress Party in Bor, Haji, called on the South Sudanese to share ethnicity and work for peace in the country.
لكن نحلها برانا ما دارين اي دولة تتدخل فينا ما عايزين اي دولة عشان نجيب عشان نحل مشاكلنا نحن برانا ابناء الوطن نحل مشاكلنا ونقعد في الوطن ونحل مشاكلنا نحن برانا فنحن نستنكر وما نقول استنكر هذه الاشياء اللي حصل ده نستنكر استنكار كامل.
South Sudanese are hard to unite for the country to move forward. At Tongroda, SSBC.
And the SPLM National Secretariat congratulated South Sudanese for their bold stand against the IGAD proposal to reinforce the UN mission in South Sudan. The Secretary for Information, Bol Makweng, said the procession that was staged Juba on Wednesday reflect the voice of citizens rejecting the proposal.
Full demonstration today to reject the foreign military intervention proposed against South Sudan. We have noted the messages which have been sent to the public and to the world at large. They have said no to military intervention in South Sudan. They have said no sanctions against South Sudan. They said no arms embargo against South Sudan. They also said no to the militarization of Juba, and yes to peace and no to war. Yes to the implementation of peace agreement. This is very good because the public is supporting the implementation of peace agreement, and the government of the Republic of South Sudan also is doing the same, supporting this peace agreement to continue. And this is what we are asking the Prince of South Sudan to support the government of South Sudan to implement this peace with their brothers within the IO that are also supporting peace. We appreciate and we congratulate Comrade Taban Dengai, who also talked along the same lines. He has demonstrated the true leadership South Sudan wants today. The people of South Sudan have spoken, and we have heard them. And their voice is important, and we in the government will listen to their voice, because it is the people of South Sudan who fought for the independence. It is they who contributed their children and their material wealth and food to support the liberation war.
8 SPLA-IO officers have joined SPLA-SPLM. The IO officers from the defunct Western Equatoria State, headed by Brigadier General Johannes Awad, declared their defection at Budwe State Coordination Office in Juba on Tuesday in the presence of Governor Raphael Patrick Zamoy. Speaking to SSBC, the governor thanked the group for responding to the general amnesty granted by the President of the Republic and urged those still in the bush to come home and participate in nation building. Brigadier General Johannes Awad called on those still carrying arms against the government to put down their arms and join in the development of their respective states.
For the sake of his country, for the sake of his people. We know for a gentleman he has the right to take his decision. As far as he moves, he will think twice. What I'm doing, is it the right step or the wrong? Then after thinking twice, he will think to consider his people first, and which what they have done now by reconciling their thinking and come back to us and say, now we are back. For us, as the fathers and the mothers, we accept them warmly back home, that this is the decision that everybody.
lakini risala bitana bgulon bashkur governor bitatna bashkur rais bitatna asar wakil mayaldid عشان وفر لنا هي إنسان يرجع يعوده. الصورة أنتم قاعدين نشوفوا ده أنا في جوبا، ده في ولاية بودوي في استيت. أنا بدي رسالة للزاند كله، المسك السلاح في رونغو، المسك السلاح في أندري، المسك السلاح في إيزو، المسك السلاح في إيزو، في تمبورا، في ناموتينا. أنتم عارفين كله بتاعيو، وأنا رجعت. أقبلوا أنتم ترجع.
And moving on, where the governor has directed traditional leaders to sensitize communities on the importance of peace and unity. Governor Anderea Mayer Acho was addressing Elber El Sherji community in Wau. The governor pointed out that security and stability are on top of his government priorities. The State Police Commissioner, Major General Majak Aru Kachuol, urged the people in Wau to cooperate with the security organs to ensure the rule of law reign. Speaking during the same event, the commander of SPLA Division 5, Major General Alteb Gatluak, said soldiers are committed to protect the people of state and their property.
تبيدوا المجرم أنه بيولوز بناكم بيولوز المواطنين بسلاح بكافي أنا ما بتجيب أنا ما بتجيبه أنا بتجينه بتجيب المقصود.
Community Empowerment for Progress Organization (SEPO) has handed over radio equipment to Eastern Lakes State. Speaking to SSBC during the handover ceremony in Juba on Monday, the chairperson of Information Committee in the National Parliament, Oliver Marie Benjamin, described the initiative as a positive step to promote peace and development in the country. The State Minister of Information, Culture, Youth and Sports, Nelson McCoy, thanked the Community Empowerment Progress Organization and UNESCO for supporting Eastern Lakes State with the community radio. He said the facility would disseminate messages of peace, unity and reconciliation.
Access to free information to every citizen. Our mandate provided by the Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan and the Constitution of Lagos State is to provide free access to information to citizens. This is the mandate and I want to fulfill it. The radio will not be used to deliver aid messages, messages of tribalism, messages of division will not accept. We will be advocating for the messages of peace, messages of love, messages that shape the community life.
Our aim is to ensure that we improve flow of information. This can help us of health, dissemination of information, social, cultural, we can come together. So as SEPO, we ensure that at least this radio serve a purpose that can help the community to come out. I don't have much, but I'd like to say this is an offer, and my colleagues from the professional body of the media in South Sudan, this is an opportunity that you can extend your support to the state authority so that we're professional people running.
I mean, people are today living in the information age. We are no more living in the Stone Age. We have advanced all these levels, from stone to slavery to capitalism to computerization, civilization. Today we are in the information age.
And the Director General for Internal Security, Akol Korkuch, together with the Press Secretary in the Office of the President, Ateny Wekateny, received the leader of Arrow Boys from former Western Equatoria State, Charles Barnaba Kisanga. Ateny Wekateny thanked Charles for responding to the amnesty by the President of the Republic. On his part, Charles Barnaba Kisanga urged those who have not yet responded to the amnesty to return home.
And came back unconditionally to South Sudan in response to the amnesty that the President of the Republic has issued last week, calling all those who have taken arms against the Republic of South Sudan to come back home and work for peace. As President Salva Kiir is extending an olive branch to all those who became discontented with the government of the Republic of South Sudan, that the alternative way for them for them to come to South Sudan and participate in the peace process. Peace is a process that you make. It's not the peace that makes people. So Engineer Barnaba has come.
Marks the beginning of the end of any war in West or Greater Equatoria between government and Arrow Boys. As we heard, there is an amnesty, and we need to start a new era of peaceful coexistence in South Sudan, so that we can start to build. Indeed, in November last year, 3 months after the peace agreement had been signed, there was no sign of peace, as the rebellion was on all over the country, spreading to new areas. It was surprised that those who signed peace were actively recruiting young men for fighting still in Equatoria, though we first assumed the fighting would only be confined to Upper Nile.
And the chairperson of Justice, Peace and Reconciliation at the Episcopal Church of South Sudan and Sudan, Bishop Samuel Enosa, called on Christians and other denominations to pray for peace in the country. Bishop Samuel urged politicians to consider national interest above personal interests.
Christians can do in this nation, as the people of this nation, is to repent.
Let us remember when Jonah went to Nineveh. When Jonah went to Nineveh, he went to preach, and he preached about repentance. And the people there, even from the king, his officials, all the inhabitants, the nobles, they repent from their sins, and God was able to bring peace into their land, and they will. This is what I request from us.
When we are talking about peace, we need a reconciliation. Let us reconcile. We were fighting with Arabs. And what is the reason now we are fighting? Killing each other, killing ourselves. Brothers and sisters, women are suffering, children are suffering. So we should take reconciliation seriously and put it into implementation and be committed to reconcile and forgive each other.
ربنا يخط الرحمة في قلوبنا كلنا كجنوبيين، يخط الروح بتاع السلام، روح بتاع التسامح، روح بتاع المحبة في بيناتنا وقيادات بتاعنا كله، من شعب فوق، من قيادات فوق لعدي أقل شعب تحت، عشان نحن نشتغل من أجل السلام. ده ما حق القيادات بتاعنا براهم، ده حقنا نحن كلنا بتاع شعب جنوب السودان. عشان كده نحن لو ما ساهمنا فيه ووقفنا كلنا وساندنا قيادات بتاعنا الفوق، سلام ده ما بيجي. عشان كده مطلوب مننا نحن نجيب السلام، نجيب من أجل السلام، نعمل من أجل السلام، نعمل من أجل الاستقرار، نعمل من أجل دولة جنوب السودان، الدولة الوليدة في أفريقيا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
And in the item, South Sudan Students' Union in Ethiopia has condemned the SPLA in opposition forces for resuming conflict in South Sudan. The head of the union, Benjamin Madet-Riak, appreciated the SPLA response in containing violence. The students also welcomed the Republican Order number 17 for the year 2016 for the declaration of cessation of hostilities between the SPLA and SPLA in opposition. South Sudan Students' Union in Ethiopia also condemned the IGAD and the UN proposal to deploy foreign troops in South Sudan. The union urged the peace partners to continue implementing the peace agreement on the resolution of the conflict in the country. And now to end the bulletin, let's have a quick preview of the major stories.